On this podcast, we explore the many dimensions of spirituality and how they intersect with everyday life. Join us as we dive deep into conversations about how people are serving humanity, embodying spiritual wisdom, and creating positive change in the world. From ancient traditions to modern practices, the Spirituality Now podcast is your space to discover, learn, and be inspired. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. I am your host, Ivonne Delaflor, and today in the show, we have our very first epistemologist. I wanted to say that word because it's even challenging for me to say it. We're going to discover what that is. He's my cousin, an incredible teacher, an incredible philosopher. Let me introduce a little bit of our guest, Manuel Delaflor. As you can notice, has the same last name as me. Manuel Delaflor is in the show today. He is an epistemologist, as I share with you, philosopher of science with deep interests in philosophy, consciousness, and human nature. His intellectual journey began with 6 years of research at the National Autonomous University in Mexico, called UNAM, for those of you of our Latin American family, where he collaborated on groundbreaking experiences, including the transferred potential study. Transferred potential study. I'm going to ask him to transfer me some philosophical potential today to me. Anyway, his work expanded to the Cognitive Sciences Group and the Philosophical Investigations Institute, where he explored advanced cognitive science and neuroscience. Manuel later entered the finance world, working with Liv Capital, where he applied innovative ideas like fractal patterns in financial algorithms and analyzed market sentiment. Guys, I'm not even halfway through the bio, and I feel smarter just by sharing this about Manuel. His creativity also led him into the art world, with his photography being exhibited in prestigious locations worldwide, including London, Budapest, and Paris. Currently, Manuel is the director of the National Institute for the Study of Consciousness in Mexico and leads research on biofeedback and cognitive analysis at the Metacognition Institute. He also collaborates with Clemson University in Human AI, Artificial Intelligence, Empowerment Lab, exploring the potential of AI to enhance human cognition. Manuel is working on a book right now titled Model Dependent Ontology, which encapsulates his philosophical views and aims to deepen our understanding of existence. Primo, cousin, Manuel, finally, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you for your words too, and I'm happy to be here with you.
Oh my goodness, I feel so much smarter just by sharing your biography with the world. I think this is the first time that I speak like metacognition and human empowerment, AI, and all of that. I feel my confidence just got a little boost, transferred potential. I felt a little bit of that on me. Anyways, so we're going to start, tell us a little bit briefly, the typical question. Well, I don't know if it's that typical because I aim it in a different way. But share us a little bit, who is Manuel? How did Manuel ended up on all of this? So there must be something in childhood, there must be something of your upbringing that brought you closer to all of these human questioning, right? That is bringing you to this incredible landscape of human consciousness. So who is Manuel? Tell us a little bit about your upbringing, where you were raised, all of that.
Thank you very much. Well, yes, it starts from childhood, definitely. And I would say the motivation, the primary motor behind everything I have done in several areas, in several fields, is motivated by curiosity, an insatiable curiosity about understanding. Because it's like we are here. and we have our lives, and we share things, and we have some fun, and sometimes we are not having fun at all. Sometimes we have interesting conversations, sometimes we are bored. I mean, there is a billion things going on in our everyday lives. But rarely, well, not rarely, because it's common that people ask themselves these questions, but rarely somebody wants to invest so much into them, into actually do something about it deeply, more than a casual conversation on after a meal or something like that. And the question is about existence in itself. I mean, what's going on? Why this instead of nothing? Why are we here? What are we? I started then reading from a really early time, and I was devouring everything that I could put my hands on, but mostly philosophy. I read novels, the classics. I mean, Julius Verne and I don't know, Anna Karenina. It's one of the Russians. I mean, I read the big books, but I was more interested in philosophy and in this tool that we have or that we could have that allow us to make us questions regarding existence, regarding ontology, which is a word that you already touched, or regarding knowledge in general, which brings me to the epistemology part that you said at the beginning. An epistemologist is someone who specializes in theory of knowledge. What we know, what can we know? How do we know that what we feel we know is correct? And things like that. So it's like trying to point to the exact things we need to understand in order to make knowledge valuable. Because it's very easy to say, well, I believe this, I believe that. But most of the times our beliefs are based on nothing. It's just like an opinion. And sadly, many times those opinions have repercussions. And I'm not saying the happy repercussions, which they are nice always, no matter how we arrive to them. But I'm talking about nasty or not so nice repercussions. When you act on something you believe on, and turns out to be a mistake and turns out to be a painful decision, things like that. How can we avoid that, if it is possible to avoid that? Are kind of the questions that have been driving me through the years.
Wow. I mean, I've always been super interested in when people tell me, oh, this is consciousness. I'm like, but what is it? How does it work? What is the function of it? What is the technology of it? I recently met a teacher that we actually interviewed. I think you will be fascinated by his methodology, Manuel. I believe he's the most clear Zen teacher, Rinzai Zen teacher. His name is Meido Moore. We had him on the show. And the way he speaks and explains the technology of Zen, he doesn't speak of Zen like a woo-woo thing, of like a ephemeral thing. He actually speaks to you practically, functionally, what's happening in the body. How do you use your body as a tool for embodiment and all of that? And I love what you're sharing, because I'm always interested in the technology behind something. Like I speak about faith in action, which I think you're going to touch on this. But faith in action as a technology of like what prompts me to make a decision, what prompts me to take a risk, what is happening at the human psyche level, what is happening at a spiritual level and a functional body, what's happening in my hormones when I decide, instantaneously to take that step. And I love that you're approaching this. Of course, I gotta say this, that's totally my ego. Of course, you're my cousin. But I love this. I love your approach, and I love that since childhood you had this, as you said it, insatiable curiosity, which I think is something that nowadays is pretty dormant for many of us. Social media, all the promptings, all of the technology that is meant to support us to grow. Sometimes, I don't know, but I'll ask you about this. We kind of like, I see it in myself. I see the possible pattern of me being seduced by the comfort of something else doing the thinking for me. And I don't get engaged. I don't get engaged with AI. I don't get engaged with all of that, and I just think that these points that you touch are key. So you spoke about ontology, and you also spoke about metacognition, and I want to start there. So can you explain a little bit of your work at the in metacognition and the Metacognition Institute, and how this helps individuals improve their cognitive abilities and well-being? Because I could take 3 hours with you on the podcast, but I want to be very specific. I mean, any other time we can talk about our childhood and all of that, but I think that we're at a stage that we got to move forward to move humanity forward with us. So tell me a little bit about your work at the Metacognition Institute, and how does this help the cognitive abilities and well-being of other humans?
Thank you. I like the question, and I think also that it's really important that we have to sort of do what you are doing, and I try to do, and many people is trying to do, like trying to get us ahead, like trying to see what's next and elevate somehow our consciousness, even when that's a controversial topic, because obviously it's not as easy as, well, you just high vibration. What on earth that means? No, you just have to vibrate high. Well, yeah, sounds nice, but how do you do that? I mean, what does it imply? What are the steps that you need to take to do that?
I am clapping. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but one of my pet peeves, Manuel, is when some people, some of us, not all of us, tell me like, raise your vibration. I'm like, what the heck is that? Right? Or this is so spiritual. I just recently did a post about how I have a pet peeve when people say, you are so special. Manuel, if it's someone that I date or something, it's like a red flag. I'm like, I gotta run, and I want to. How does this work? So sorry to interrupt you, but I
No,
got
it's okay.
validated.
Now,
Keep going.
metacognition. Metacognition is what is beyond cognition. So it's sort of, say, cognition is at a level, metacognition operates above normal cognition. So normal cognition is daily interactions, daily activities, what you think, and how you react to things in daily life. When you talk about metacognition, you go to a level above that, in where you are evaluating your own reactions, your own emotional feelings, and everything you think, everything you feel is evaluated in this upper level, so to speak. And from there, if you have the right tools, you can actually begin to think better or feel better. Because you are not just at the level of the emotion or at the level of the thought or at the level of the belief, but you reflect on that belief. When you reflect on that, why am I thinking that? Why did I reach that conclusion? Why am I feeling this? It's not just that I'm feeling it. Obviously, I'm feeling it. Obviously, it's affecting me and affecting the people around me. Is why am I feeling this? What makes me believe or feel what I'm feeling? So it's like a sort of introspective process that comes above the normal process. And it's called metacognition. And in my book, Model Dependent Ontology, I'm developing sort of tools that allow us to do precisely this: evaluate what we think, contrast what we think with other beliefs, and help us to realize that things like certainties are one of the worst enemies humans have ever had.
You got to say a little bit more about that. I mean, I have so many questions already, because as you are sharing that, I can see, spiritually wise. And when I say spiritual, because the word spiritual is so misused nowadays. People is like spiritual and I'm going to burn sage. No, I'm actually going to study my mind. I'm going to sit down and explore, do breath work to access my pineal gland, all that stuff. But tell us about that. I mean, you explain to me about that, about the last thing you said.
About the models and beliefs and certainties?
Yes. Explain to me.
Yes. Okay. Many of the problems we have and the decisions we make that we were saying at the beginning are taken because you're certain about something. For example, a politician is certain about the policies need to change because they are wrong. And it's a certainty that people have. But when somebody is certain about something, it means that they don't understand the subject they are being certain of. Because if you were more understandable, if you were wiser or more intelligent, you will notice that there are things that are beyond your grasp. So you cannot assert something with confidence. You have to, because we do have to take decisions in our everyday lives. And we have to have some level of certainty in that our decisions are correct and healthy, and they will promote something good for you and your loved ones, etc. But it's a wild guess, and in the best of the times, it's a guess that is informed. So I have an informed guess, but it's a guess. And unless we understand that all we are doing is modeling, and hence the word modeling, my model-dependent ontology, all we do is model things around us, calculate and predict things based on what we feel, based on our personal history, our recent interactions with other people, our readings, our studies in school, etc. Based on all that, you construct a model of the world. And using that model, you interact with the world. So it's very important to notice and to understand that how the model is built turns out to be the most important thing in your life, because that's what helps you to deal with problems in daily life. That's what helps you to go ahead. That's what helps you to sort out problems.
So, Manuel, as you're speaking, I'm imagining my brain goes into trying to understand like the detail of this. And I literally had a model in my mind of a Rubik's Cube. And all of us in humanity having a piece of the Rubik's Cube. So all of us trying to move. And what makes it, like if it was a Rubik's Cube, what makes it that my decisions or your decisions or certain people's decisions are far more conducive to harmony and to create the form of the Rubik's cubes, you know, how to click into something that moves us forward. What makes a model in the mind based on this metacognition aspect? What makes that I am more I'm closer to the algorithm of making a better decision, not the best decision, because obviously there's thousands of algorithms in humanity and in our brain and all of that. But what makes it that metacognitive wise that I am going to approach my decisions and my model in a way that supports humanity better? I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, it's a beautiful question, in fact. I love it. And it's a very important question, too. I think that the moment you learn to reflect on what you're doing and the reasons why you're doing it and your feelings, and understand that your feelings obey what you see, and that what you see is based in a deep level to your expectations. So you can see from a broader perspective. I think the most important thing we can do, and that's metacognition for, is to learn to see from a broader perspective. Because we live in our little tiny little world where our beliefs are everything. And things, let me put a common example. Did you like that movie? Oh yeah, it's a fantastic movie. Or no, I hated it, it's a horrible movie. Wait a minute, no, the movie is not horrible and it's not a fantastic movie. That's your assessment. You should say, I liked it, or I didn't like it. That's what you should be saying. But what do? We say, that's a horrible movie, don't waste your time. I'm assessing with objective certainty something about something extra that is not me. Why? No, we shouldn't be doing that. We should be reflecting, okay, I understand that what I feel about the movie is what I feel about it, and not what the movie is on its own. So kind of little things like this allows you to have a perspective that goes beyond, and it's more encompassing of not only your own feelings and your own assessment and your own beliefs, but others' beliefs, people around you, in your circle, people in your job. And the more you can encapsulate and understand all of that, then you also understand why it's important. In fact, why it's essential to learn how to be impeccable, how to be complete. And that touches another thing that you said, spirituality. That now, I'm more spiritual than you, no? It's because you don't get that, because you're still sleeping. And then I put myself above, and the others are, no, you're just a sheep. You just follow the trend. You just follow whatever the others say. Wait, no. The moment you say that, you are just a bit egotic monster and not a spiritual being, because spirit is everything, if we want to say it properly. Everything is spiritual. I was discussing just the other day I couldn't remember who with. But he was saying, if you think everything is spiritual, then everything should be okay. And I said, that depends, okay, from who or for what. If you ask me if the universe is perfect, I will have to say yes. Do I like it? No, sometimes I don't like it. That doesn't mean it's less perfect or less spiritual.
Wow. As you are sharing, I'm just thinking, I'm just transferring what you are sharing and the way and the way this ontology, this metacognition aspects of the study of our mind and our human behavior and our human emotions. I'm thinking so much of Buddhism, and I'm not a Buddhist, but I've studied all of those ranges, and I'm just transferring it into compassion. How, including all the algorithms, including other people into your equation of a decision, right? Including other people into your feelings, including into, like, it's not only about you in this human universe, right? Then I find that it's very helpful, these tools, not as just woo-woo ideas, not as just like aspirations, not even as something labeled spiritual, because I think that sometimes the word spiritual, if I use it in a way that just labels this as spiritual and not the other thing as spiritual, I'm just creating the same madness as if I'm anti-spiritual. But like compassion as a tool, as a functional tool, when it's in a way that I'm translating it, it allows my mind to open up, like the fractals that we're going to talk about the fractals, right? To include more of the fractals of the universe, of the other human beings, and make a better picture, like a better puzzle that is more expansive, more conducive to opening, more conducive to more flexibility, adaptability. This is what I'm experiencing from what you're sharing. And I have a broader spectrum both of humanity and a more, for me, and a more and decision-making ability that is going to hopefully not hurt others. If I don't hurt others, it's like, that was a win. That's first. Then if I can improve other people's lives by being that model myself, then wow, that's a second win, right? And there is, I don't know if you've heard about the bodhisattva vows. In Buddhism, they have these vows that sentient beings are numberless, we're about to save them all. And I want to put them in this context. Then the illusions are endless, we're about to go through them all. The Dharma way is infinite, we're about to learn it. The Buddha way is inconceivable, we're about to attain it. And what these vows do, based on what you are sharing, is really includes it all. It doesn't make it about me, right? Now, you said about an egotic monster. I do not like to use the word ego a lot, because I always wonder, Manuel, if Freud and Carl Jung didn't name something ego, will we be talking or labeling people as egoic? I don't know. But I just find it super fascinating what you are sharing, which brings me to the other question that I want to talk to you. You talk about transfer potential. And a transfer potential experiment, I mean, just that word is blowing my mind. What were its key findings in terms of consciousness and cognitive science, and what is
it? Okay. Well, transfer potential was an experiment we made at the National University in Mexico. I was working with Jacobo Grinberg, which has become famous lately. Jacobo and I worked together for 6 years. And it was amazing. I still remember, because he disappeared in 1994, I mean, nobody knew anything about him. And there are all sorts of speculations that I don't like to engage on. But, well, the fact is that he's gone. And I do remember, I'm sure this happens to you and many of the people who is watching us, when you find someone who you can speak to and you can spend the whole night speaking and you both are really excited and really in the same tune, sort of exactly in the same channel. So we used to discuss about philosophy, about science, about cognition, about Oriental philosophies. We both love Taoism and Buddhism and the different meditations and Zen. And it was just a fascinating guy. And, well, we designed this experiment in where we connect two persons with a electroencephalogram, EEG. So we connect people on the brains, and then we are seeing the activity of the brains in a computer. So first they are sitting together in the same chamber, and then one of them goes to another chamber, but they are still connected, plugged into this machine. So we are still seeing the wave patterns of their brains. Then on one of the persons, we show a pattern of lights. This provokes in the brain a very specific response, which is an evoke potential, evoked by the light. It can be evoked by touch, it can be evoked by sound or whatever. All of those are recordable because you can see the actual response of the brain in the occipital lobe, in this case, to the actual stimuli, which is the light. Interesting thing is that the person who has not seen the light, who was in a completely different room, the brain sometimes reacted to the light. What we saw there is that, and we call this experiment the transfer potential, and then the subtitle is the EPR paradox. Let me talk a little bit about this. Einstein was one of the brightest minds in the 100 years ago. And he was studying and designing this general relativity and special relativity. And he didn't like quantum mechanics because quantum mechanics was weird and was like unpredictable. And he couldn't put his mind into it because he said no. And there's a famous saying over there that ghosts don't play with the dice when the universe, meaning everything has a reason, there's a cause and an effect for everything. And if we want to understand the universe, we need to understand the causes and the effects because there is like a linearity in everything. So everything that you see in the quantum world that are paradoxes are just because we don't have the right tools to understand what's going on. And so they designed, the EPR paradox is an experiment where they design that they put a particle to interact. And then the particle, let me see myself, it says that in these particle accelerators, you put two particles, they touch themselves, and then they are separated. Quantum mechanics says, and well, this has been proof, in experiments, empirically verified experiments. When some of these particles that interacted previously is looked, and you say, particles have several properties. One of them is spin. Spin is the rotation. It's just a figure of speech because they do not rotate per se, but it's a way of saying or talking about it. So if one of the spins, say they're spinning to the left, you know that the other will be also spinning to the left. But you know this before actual information can come into between them. You turn to the left, I will turn to the left. It doesn't work like that. It's instantaneous, meaning space-time are a construction. There are no things that are outside there. And Einstein believed in that was impossible because nothing can be transmitted or go faster than the speed of light. That's the limit of the speed in the universe. Nothing can go faster than the speed of light. So if you have instant communication, that's impossible. It just means that we don't know enough about the system. And we were talking about this and said, well, because Jacobo was interested in human communication and seeing brain patterns, etc. And I said to him, well, what if we stimulate one of the brains and see what happens to the other? This should demonstrate that there is a non-causal relationship between brains. That's what we did. And then, well, it has been a very controversial, still is, but also important experiment. It has been cited, in science, you publish something, and if people cites you and talks about your work, means that your work was meaningful. And this is one of the works that we did that has been really replicated and everything.
Wow, I just felt like, for some reason, my imagination was like, wow, I literally just had a piece of Einstein here in our podcast. Not all the time I get to speak about Einstein with someone. This is just fascinating, Manuel. Now, wow, thank you for sharing that. So what, you already shared a little bit about Jacobo Grinberg, and that was one of my questions, but you already answered it. How did you, I know that you do a lot of the studies and applications of AI, fractals, algorithms, all of that. So I have a challenging question. Hopefully we can answer it briefly for the people. But how do you integrate philosophy, right, in the cognitive science? In the cognitive science world, number one, to address what people face, the challenges that people face today, like what is this? How does this help people? All of this, how can this help people, the challenges that we're facing today, number one. And number two, what role does AI plays right now in not only enhancing the human cognition that we were speaking about, but how can it empower individuals in their personal and professional lives? So how all of this, that is incredible, philosophical, scientifically proven, so well stated, how can it help humans?
Well, I believe your question is in two parts. I believe one is from the metacognition point of view or model-dependent view point of how can this help? And another is the AI question, the question about AI. So let's talk first about how can it help. It helps, like we said before, by helping us to reflect on what we think and help us to understand our feelings and a better grasp of what we see around us. Meaning, for example, we all are inundated by a billion things: emails, TV programs, social media. I mean, everything we look around us, we have information. We are bombarded by information. Some information is good for us and will help us grow and will help us to have a good life, a nice life. But many other things are designed to do exactly the opposite. For example, social media has algorithms that help the social media owner to get more eye views, meaning people will continue to stare at the screen and browsing and, because they are tricking your mind. How do they trick your mind? They provoke, they appeal to the amygdala. They appeal to your basic instincts, which is fear and hate. And this is a horrible thing. This is absolutely a horrible thing. You could say, well, yeah, but we can also find all sorts of nice stuff. We can see our family and friends, nice moments, and they are sharing the trip to somewhere, or that they are getting married, or the new member of the family, things like that. Yes, of course that happens. But that's not shared. You put, congratulations, blah, blah. But the moment you click share on something is when something is touching you on a deeper level. And that deeper level is sadly emotionally charged, but badly. Because if you have fear that some policy of the politician are going to implement, they will trick you into believing they are taking your jobs. They are wanting you to hate others, and you will share that. And you will talk about that. And you will then spend more time in the social network because your amygdala is triggered. Anything that triggers you is what they push. And not just social media. Obviously, newspapers and the news on the TVs, they are all based on the same thing. What the network wants, because there are also all sorts of conspiracy believers there, conspiranoids, I call them. And they say, no, they want to control you. The elite wants to control you. And they want to put blah, blah. No, there is not they. There is a bunch of people, yes. They have interests as all humans. And what do they want as a corporation? Money. Profits. How do I get profits if I'm a news company? By getting people to see my channel. How do I make them look my channel? By putting something controversial, something that will scare them, something that will trigger them into an animal reaction. And an animal, I'm not talking about here animal because everything is animal and it's beautiful, but in a primitive, reacting to something that eliminates danger. So they talk about these immigrants, they are taking out your jobs. Wait a minute, no, that's a lie. But it triggers you. And so it doesn't matter if it is actual factual or not.
100%, Manuel. I am triggered by anything animals. Oh, this animal was abandoned. I'm like, and there I go. I'm going to share it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I suffer extra with social media. It's like, let me have the world of suffering in humanity that is already there, either for us to transcend, to understand, to know ourselves, to know others better. And then let's add another layer of social media that hits dopamine shots like, hey, I click a like and dopamine shot and my amygdala is reactive, fight or flight or freeze all of the time. This is exhausting. So, Manuel, I love what you're saying, but what do you see in your work? I know you're going to publish, by the way, when is your book, Model Dependent Ontology, going to be ready? I want you back in the show when that is happening so we can share it with people.
Well, the book is not ready yet, but
Next
year? Probably next year. I'm in talks to an editorial in Mexico. They are interested in publishing, and maybe one in the United States. Probably, I'm in initial talks with them.
We're fast. This is happening simultaneously. This is a transfer simultaneous happening. I'm in the same things with my book. But anyways, we'll have you back because I want to talk to you about your book. But Manuel, because we have a couple of minutes left, how do you see the future of human AI?
Okay,
the collaboration. We talk about all and now let you finish that, the hatred and all of that. But
just finishing quickly about that. So what I was going to is that if you have tools to reflect on what you see, what you are exposed to, what you are being told to, then you can think better. You can learn to be a critical thinker. And a critical thinker is not the conspiranoid who thinks that there is a big conspiracy against them and that thinks that everybody is against them and they want to control their life and they want to make them miserable and they want to kill them. That's not being critical thinker. Critical thinker is one who evaluates everything and can discard what is valuable and what's not. That's for that. Now, from the point of view of artificial intelligence, I will really briefly touch it again, the topic, because I was not aware of the time flight. Artificial intelligence is a fantastic tool, but it's not intelligent. And I want to close my comment about artificial intelligence by that. What we have currently are generative engines. They generate something similar to language. They generate something similar to images, something similar to videos. And why do I say something similar? Because when you see an image generated of about politicians, you are not seeing the actual politician. It's not a photo. It's a generated image that resembles the politician in certain situations. Same happens with language. We are not talking to a machine. It's not intelligent. It's not thinking. It's just a chatbot that responds to your input in a very, I don't want to use the word, but it's the best, stochastic chat word, which means that it's like something, you uses a lot of mathematics and algorithms and statistics in order to calculate the next possible word one by one. But for the machine, they are not words. They don't have meaning. They don't want to say something. They do not think. They are just predicting the next characters in a sequence.
Wow.
That's all they do.
Manuel, this is, because I have a lot of friends that are like, there's going to be soul in the artificial intelligence. There's going to a lot of stuff that I'm hearing, and it's this is things that I think all of us humans need to be aware of, and work on ourselves to have more, as you say, more tools for critical thought. I truly believe that critical thought is essential nowadays, especially with how humanity keeps unfolding, and how all of these technologies here. Anyways, this is phenomenal, Manuel. So tell me something. So how do you work with people? Don't be shy. Like, do you coach people? Where can people find you? Do you have any programs where people can learn this? I mean, I could sit with you for 3 hours, and I didn't tell you that we had like 45 minutes today, but I think we're going to have you back so we can talk about your book and other themes now that, that our audience gets to meet you. But how do you help people, or how can people reach out to you? If they reach out to you, what are the benefits? Do you have any programs? What are you doing right now?
We do at the Metacognition Institute. We're launching our first program. It's being launched as we speak, basically.
Wow.
It's a program designed, and I think will be very helpful for many people. It's designed about a biomarker. Okay, it's a device that you put. I mean, this is not it, but it's a device that you put in your arm, and reads, but with an extremely accurate, gives you an extremely accurate reading of your heartbeat. Based on that, you can extrapolate many things. And what we have is a program designed to help people tackle their stress levels. So instead of just going for a meditation, instead of just trying to put your mind in blank, instead of going to yoga, all those things are nice, don't get me wrong. Of course they are important. Of course they are something that people could do and help. But there is a missing component there that we cannot see inside ourselves. And with these devices, we can see inside our own heart. So once we see inside our own activity, we learn to control it. And this is key here. It's not about therapies. It's not about spending 20 years talking to a therapist about how your mother treated you. It's nothing like that. This is instantaneous results. Our program is 2 months long. 2 months long. And in 2 months, we teach you how to get rid of stress. Basically, that's it. You can find it in metacognitioninstitute.com.
We'll make sure, don't worry about it. You can send all to Sophie, we'll make sure to put all of the links, not only your website, not only the social media, everything, because I think people need to know this. But I know I have questions now. I want to bring all of your team of the Metacognition Institute. Maybe we can do a podcast about that, because I think, for stress, I'm like, my brain is like immediately like, with it, like, does it get rid forever? But stressors are going to keep coming. So do you keep using the machine? Do you keep using that? So I have...
Yes, you can keep using the machine and you can keep improving. But the program is designed for 2 months, because in 2 months your body learns something new and establishes as something normal, a new normal.
So it's going to be the basis.
And in this new normal, anything that comes to your life, you have the tools to deal with it.
Dang, that's like knowing yourself. That's like buying a car and learning how to drive it. That's that's I've always been like, we need to learn how to use our body as a physical instrument of like hormones and glands, immune modulators. How do they operate? Do I have any say on that? Can I drive my, my hormone stuff to reduce my stress? My cortisol, can it go lower? When does this happens more? See, I'm excited about this. I want to, of course, I want to go through it. Anyway, so Manuel, thank you so much. Do you do personal work with people, or are you just focused on this right now?
Well, I do talks like this. I mean, I'm invited. I gave a conference just a few months ago, and I give normally conference all around. And yeah, I mean, not available maybe for one-to-one, but yes, through the Metacognition Institute,
Okay,
we have
perfect.
this program. Yeah.
So that's right now your focus on your book. And very quickly, your photography. We are going to put the link for your art. I believe is you are one of the best photographers. I am going to generalize. I know you said like you got to say I like your photography, but I declare it like one of the best photographers. Very, very, very like angelic, and also light and shadow. I think there's soul play of that. So we'll make sure that people have the link for your art, for your website, and you got to come back because we got to talk about the I Ching. But I didn't want to go there. I really want to go through AI, metacognition, that I think is tools that right now are going to help people move forward more than other things. Anything else that you want to say? Do you have a little message? We are all about like exploring how people, like no matter of what, like scientists, spiritual teachers, leaders in finances, etc. How do you take your faith into action? What would you say to people for them to keep taking their faith into action in a way that is more encompassing and beneficial for themselves and for the whole?
Opening and understanding. We need to be more open and more willing to understand others.
That's it. That is the cognitive blessing. Critical thought. So if you are watching us on YouTube, Manuel took a pause to think. I love that. Manuel, thank you so much for being in the show. I think we need hours because, with someone like you, limiting to time slots is like limiting a thought into, like, put it in a cage when it wants to fly. But we'll have you back in the podcast. And thank you for being with us. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Our Latin American family que conoce a Manuel, síganlo en sus redes sociales y en su website. And that's it for today. I'm feeling smarter for some reason today. Me siento un poco más inteligente, but we send you a big kiss, a big thank you. We'll see you next time with another incredible guest. Un besito.
Thank you, Ivonne.
Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning into the Spirituality Now podcast. We hope today's episode has inspired and empowered you on your spiritual journey. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who may benefit from it. Remember, spirituality is not just something we practice. It is how we live, how we serve, and how we connect. Stay grounded, stay inspired, and keep evolving. Please join us next time for more enlightening discussions. And until then, take care and be well.